Hello, everyone. For this week's micro training, this might be just a little bit longer than normal because I want to walk you through a tool that you can use if you want in next week's lessons for section 107, verses 1 to 20. So as you guys all know, at the end of the seminary curriculum manual, so if you go all the way to the bottom of the table of contents, at the very bottom, there's an appendix. If you click on that, at the bottom, there is another uh, link that says ideas for variety. So it's at the very bottom of the whole manual, no matter how you get there. Once you get in there, there's a whole bunch of different lesson ideas that you can use or activities that you can use to help the students be engaged. So I'm going to walk you through one of those that would fit really well with this lesson in section 107. So the idea is this topic web. Now this is the PDF that they have in the manual. I'm not a huge fan of this style, so I'm going to walk you through how I would use this. So section 107 verses 1 to 20 is all about the priesthood. And whenever we have the students do an activity, we want to make sure they have all the tools and the information they need to be successful. So the first thing I would do as background information is just make sure that everyone understands the basic idea that in the Aaronic priesthood there are 4 offices, and in the Melchizedek priesthood there are 5 offices. And I've listed the offices there. So I would kind of list those on the board probably, make sure everybody understands they know what those are. Now I put stars next to some of them: deacon, teacher, priest, bishop, elder, and high priest. The reason for that is because these verses we're going to read or that we're going to study are going to mention those specific offices. Now, also one word of caution that I would give to the students is whenever we have a lesson that's on the priesthood, we sometimes make comments that are not true, right? We'll say things like, "Now, girls, I know you don't have the priesthood, so this doesn't apply to you, but it's important you understand this." And that's just false. One of the things that I would share, here's a quote. You're welcome to use this if you want. Elder Dallin H. Oaks gave a talk in 1998 where he talked about the blessings of the sacrament. And he said, "So it is that those who hold the Aaronic priesthood open the door for all church members who worthily partake of the sacrament to enjoy the companionship of the Spirit of the Lord and the ministering of angels." Now, in that whole talk, we talk about how young men hold these keys. He said, yes, they technically hold those keys, but the whole purpose of the keys is to unlock those doors for every member who takes the sacrament. So it's not that just young men have the right to the ministering of angels. It's that they have the authority to unlock that door for all members who have the right to receive the ministering of angels. So it's really important to make sure everyone understands that this applies to young women just as much as it does to young men, because it's describing the blessings that will come to everyone through these offices. So there's just my word of caution. So what I would do is I'd help the students. So I'll go through this really quick since I've already taken too much time, but I would just give everybody a blank piece of paper. In the very middle of the paper, I'd have them write priesthood, and then I'd have them draw 2 circles off to the side, one that says Aaronic and one that says Melchizedek. Then from there, we can jump into the scriptures. And what I would do is I would start by walking through the students with them. So maybe you've heard the old idea that the teacher should explain something, then the teacher should do that activity with the students, then the students are ready to do it on their own. So it's a good kind of rule of thumb to help make sure the students know how to do it by walking them through it. So what I would do is I would start with verses 1 through 6. So I'll show you how I would do this. If I read verse 1, so I'm in section 107, verse 1, it says there are in the church 2 priesthoods, namely the Melchizedek and Aaronic, including the Levitical priesthood. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for any information that I can add to our bubbles. So you notice that it gives us a little piece of information that another name for the Aaronic priesthood is Levitical. So I would put a little bubble off of the Aaronic priesthood bubble, and I would write it's called Levitical. So you see, we've already got one little piece of information. Then I go to the second verse. Why the first is called the Melchizedek priesthood is because Melchizedek was such a great high priest. So off the Melchizedek bubble, you notice that I've added that little bubble that says it's named after Melchizedek. And then I add on to that one another bubble that says he was a great high priest. And then I just keep going through the verses in that same way. So here you can see that what I've got is I've got a little bit of information. This is actually for about verses 1 through 4, but I would break it into chunks. Verses 1 through 6, verses 7 through 12, 13 through 17, and then 18 to 20. Now, a good rule of thumb is to just tell the students every verse you read has at least one thing you can add to your bubble sheet. So by the end, the whole paper can be full of all this information about the priesthood. So here, for example, is what it looked like for me after I did verses 7 through 12. So you notice that it's heavy on the Melchizedek priesthood side there. Then by the end of verses 13 to 17, you can see I've added a whole bunch to the Aaronic priesthood side. So that's why I break it into these chunks. Then what's great is verses 18 to 20 talk about the keys and the blessings that come from both. So you can see here by the end of verses 18 to 20, I've added all this information in. One thing that I think is helpful, if you do this beforehand and you can walk in with this piece of paper that's full of all these bubbles, you can say when you're done, it'll look something like this, right? And you can hold that up so they can see all this information that's there. So just kind of two little rules of thumb. If you let them know, hey, after every verse, there's at least one thing you should add to your sheet. And that if you do that, then it's going to help you out quite a bit. So anyways, I hope this helps. It's just a tool that can be used to help the students understand what the priesthood is and how it blesses them. Once you've done that, then they have more information where you can dive into the discussions and how it applies to them and what they learn about Jesus Christ. Maybe you can ask personal questions like, how have you or your family been blessed through these keys that you learned about today, right? To open up these personal experiences. Anyways, I apologize. I know this is longer than normal, but I just kind of wanted to walk you through this little tool that's available to you. I hope this is helpful. This is a tool that's been very helpful for me in the past. As long as you take the time to set it up properly and you give them the tools they need to be successful, and then kind of break it into sections for them so that they're not overwhelmed. If you just tell them to do, now go read verses 1 to 20 and fill it up, it's going to be kind of overwhelming for them. So you can kind of take it through one little section at a time. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. I apologize for the length of this, but I'm excited to see how this goes for you. If you think this might work, great. This is not a requirement to use it. It's just an idea. You can use it if you want. But anyways, you're all amazing. Thank you so much for all your work. And I look forward to hearing how this goes next week. Thanks.